security clearance process. Good afternoon. My name is Steve Perron. I'm a Spartan Compass mentor. And in July 2020, after a 35-year career with the Central Intelligence Agency, of which the last 2 years I spent as Director of Security at the agency, I retired from federal government service. Understanding that those who are considering a position within the national security infrastructure, that there is a lot of questions relevant to gaining a security clearance within the United States government, I wanted through a series of videos to provide some, hopefully, clarity in terms of what that process is, what are the practitioners looking at, and how best to prepare yourself to go through that process successfully. When people ask me what is the process to gain a top secret security clearance, my answer is pretty simple. It's 2 steps. It's the collection of information through 3 steps. One is the completion of the SF-86 that the individual does relevant to their background and experience. It is a discussion with the background investigator relevant to whether, to go over that SF-86 and ensure that it remains valid. There is the background investigation. And there's actually a 4th step for several U.S. government agencies, to include the CIA, NSA, DIA, DoD special access programs, where there's the use of the polygraph to gather additional information. Once all that information is gathered, it then goes to an adjudicator who will ultimately make the decision relevant to whether or not that individual should get a clearance. And while people believe that this process is very subjective, it actually is highly structured. And an individual can look on the D&I policy website and actually look for SEAD 4, which is the Security Executive Agent Directive number 4, and that lays out the national security adjudicative guidelines, of which those practitioners within the U.S. government who are granting a security clearance are required to follow. Because every decision relevant to a disapproval regarding a security clearance is appealable. It's appealable through the agency that is disapproving the clearance, and then ultimately it's appealable through federal courts. So what people perceive to be a very unstructured process is actually highly structured. And if we do disapprove you for a clearance, the U.S. government is required to provide you a clear statement of reasons that is can be the basis for your appeal, either through the agency or through the federal court system. So at its core, the process is that the U.S. government is verifying all the data that you provide them. So it's incredibly important that you are honest in completion of the Standard Form 86. It is incredibly important that you are honest in your discussion with the investigator who will come and talk to you. It's called a subject interview. We are not looking for perfect people. Perfection is not our goal. In fact, the adjudicative guidelines note that what we take into consideration is the whole person concept. We understand that people experiment with drugs. We understand that people may have had financial issues in their past. We understand that there might have been minor criminal activity. What we need to see is a change in behavior that indicates to us that the individual has matured enough to be able to maintain a security clearance at a top secret level. So 3 things to keep in mind. While subjective, the process, because you always have people judging people, the process is actually highly structured, and you do have appeal rights if you are disapproved. The U.S. government is verifying what you tell us, and you need to be honest while completing the SF-86 and talking to your background investigator. And that really goes down to the core issue of honesty and integrity and candor are critical issues. I've seen more cases where people are disapproved based on those issues rather than the fact, the activity that they may have been trying to hide. So be honest, have integrity, be candid when going through the process. In future videos, I'll go deeper into some of the issues that practitioners look at and in terms of, whether or not a person should get a clearance. If you have additional questions, please reach out through Spartan Compass website, and I'll be glad to address them. And let me end by thanking you for considering taking a position in the national security infrastructure. It is incredibly important that we get the right people into this infrastructure for the protection of U.S. interests and the protection of the homeland. The fact that you are considering a position in and of itself tells me that you have the character to be successful to get through the security process.